Top 5 things. All right, so the first thing that I feel like is most important is you don't have to know everything right now. And you will never know everything right now. People have the misconception when they get in and you feel inadequate, right? Inadequacy is a real big thing when you start. The thing about feeling inadequate is you're going to feel inadequate for the next 10 years or even longer, because even if you've been in the business for 10 years, you will come up against something that you've never dealt with before. Some new situation, concoction of a mess of a property or a mess of, owners on the property or death and divorce and who knows what, right? Something weird with the water. Who knows? You're always going to have something that you're going to have to figure out. That's kind of the fun part of this job, is that it's not boring because we're not doing the exact same thing over and over. The paperwork's pretty well the same, but the experiences are different every time. People are different. The homes are different. So stop with any inadequacies that you feel, because you can research anything. So just like when people get approached and they say, oh, I have a commercial property I want to buy. Would you help me buy a commercial property? And you go, oh my gosh, I can't do that. I've never done it before. Well, you've never done it until you've done it, right? You're always going to feel inadequate until you jump in and get the research done and figure it out. There's always a class you can take, a person you can call. There's always something. Case in point, my husband's going to be listing a bar. Well, number one, we don't even go in bars because we don't drink. So that's a thing, right? But then number two is he's like, where do I start? Right? He's been licensed for about a month and a half. He's like, can I even do this? And I'm like, well, yeah, sure. You can do it just as well as anybody else. Go look up every commercial small business. And if there's any bars out there, right? Go look up any of those and see how they're listed, what type of information they put out. So then you know what information you need to gather. Easy. And you go look at all those examples, and people did a very poor job doing it anyway. So it's not hard to top what people are doing. So you can always learn, and you will always be learning. The second thing is the right steps repeated consistently will reap the rewards. That's huge. So you will inevitably be in a spot where you're going to be doing the same thing over and over, and you're going to feel like it's not producing results. So like Megan, you've got your list of expireds you're going to call, right? You're going to research those. You're going to feel like you're spinning your wheels. People are going to say no, they're not interested. They've sold their house already, whatever it is. But that is a proven step, right? Those things that I've taught you to do, they're proven to work. You just have to have the tenacity to just stay in there and keep going and going and going and going until something breaks loose. But eventually, things break loose. The only time they don't break loose is when you give up and you quit trying. That's it. The third thing is, it's not all about money. Now, that's something no one really told me. I kind of told myself that for a long time. But it's so important that it's not all about the money. Not because, we don't need a paycheck, not because we don't need to pay our bills, not because of that, but because if you always, and I broken record, if you always focus on the person, you will always be making the money. You really will. You will foster so much better relationships with people. And that will reap rewards that you can't see right now. So somebody had posted in the group and they were asking about not receiving a phone call back, right? There's somebody that was interested in selling, but they know the husband's having health issues. And what do? You've called and called and called, and they're not answering the phone. Take the personal approach, right? Take them dinner. Somebody mentioned that. Take them dinner. Take them some flowers. Send them a card. You don't really know what's going on in their life, and they may just not be able to handle it right now. It doesn't mean that you're being rejected. It means that it's not going to happen for them at the moment because their life is a mess. You don't know. So take the salesperson out of it for a minute and go, if this person was my friend, what is it that I could do to help them? Right? That's the approach you'd want to take. for any of these, any of this stuff. Somebody asks you a question about, the value of a property, and you're going to give them the value of a property, and a lot of people will be guarded, thinking, oh, I'm going to get screwed over if I just tell them, tell them a value and I don't have them sign a piece of paper, right? If you take out that defensiveness and the salesperson, and you just come out as that, giver of information and a friend and a kind person, it goes a very long way. So that's why I say it's not all about the money, because your behavior produces better results than anything. Really does. In regards to that, do you get the address of buyers right away?
So I just mean like when you, because I've got somebody who's like that too. And I know a lot has happened in her life. She's been through a few funerals and stuff like that. And I would like to send her a card, but I don't have her address. So do you, like when you're making these contacts, I have her phone number and email address, but not a physical address.
Text her and say, I want to send you something. What's your mailing address? That's all I do. When I meet with buyers, no, I am not in the habit of asking them if they're just a buyer. I'm not in the habit of asking them for their physical address, necessarily. Um, it it probably depends on what type of buyer they are. If you
Yeah.
if you have a lot of buyers that you maybe want to put on your mailing list, potential buyers, um, I'm going to say the one thing about that is okay, let me back myself up for a second. So what that makes me think of is like, like my quarterly mailers that I mail out, right? That I actually invest money in. So those that I'm investing in, those are past clients that I'm investing in. I'm not usually ever investing. I'm not investing in people that are potential clients, because I don't invest in them until they invest in me. So I'll invest some time and stuff, but when it comes to money, I don't tend to market that way with the $10 gifts that I'm sending out to everybody. I don't do that to just all the random people, because they actually won't appreciate it like the people that I've already served. Does that make sense? So then it's just like, it's kind of like I've got this lender who keeps sending me hats and shirts and gifts and like all sorts of stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, you're wasting your time, because I'm not going to use you as a lender, but thanks but no thanks. Just because it's not the lender that I'm going to use, and they never asked me if I was interested in, I don't know. There's no personal connection at all to that lender. So they just keep sending me crap. I don't know who they are, but they're sending me stuff. There's no personal connection to it. So it's not as effective as when you have some sort of personal connection and then you are sending them something. So I don't know if that helps or not, but it just, yeah. But I would just text them and ask if you do have their text message and you feel comfortable with that. Yeah, just ask them for their mailing address, because you're going to be sending them something, and then usually they'll give it up. So, okay, number 4, it doesn't have to be perfect. It never has to be perfect, and it will not be perfect. So my hair is I was gonna just totally come on, not even finish, but it's not done. It's half wet. And I was like, well, let's see. We ran, we exercised, we got ready, and I'm like, and this is what it is. And I almost came on with no makeup, and some days that's the way that it is. If you show your house in sweatpants on a Saturday, I just call it casual Saturday and tell them that's the way they get me, right? It doesn't, thanks, Colleen. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. There's a lot of things that go around on Facebook groups, right? These real estate Facebook groups, and it's like, does it matter what kind of car you drive, and does it matter, what are you wearing, what type of professional outfit are you wearing, blah 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 blah, right? Oh, come on, Stacy, turn on the camera. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, and I say that because the hustle is what matters. The hustle, the knowledge, the research, all of that is what matters. If you have that, they aren't going to care what kind of pants you're wearing. They're not going to care what kind of car you're driving. It actually was more uncomfortable for me personally to get a nicer car. Like, believe it or not. Because I didn't want people to judge me that I bought a nice car. Like, I was just happy working my butt off and driving an old minivan that my grandma gave me. But I made $130,000 driving an old minivan that my grandma gave me. So does it matter? No. It really doesn't matter. So don't get caught up in feeling like the way you dress, you know, how you look, how much you weigh, all those things, that any of those things matter, because it doesn't. All that people really care about is the fact that you know what you're talking about. They feel like they're protected and represented, and you can get the job done. Like that's it. That's all that matters. And you don't have to, like, because we don't tell the clients every little misstep that maybe goes on, you know, goes on behind the scenes sometimes. Like, just know it's not going to be perfect all the time, and there's always going to be stuff you have to deal with, and then something else comes in. You know, there's another problem with the transaction, and then you have to just wade through the problem and figure it out. So it's not, there's not perfection. It's not just the easy from A to B, you know, sign, close, and everything's done. That's the anomaly. Most of the time it's hard. Well, they're ringing my doorbell. My husband's out there. Okay. Last thing. Probably my favorite thing about the job. People will appreciate you. If you follow these steps, if you do these things, if you are actually treating people like people, putting your heart into it, people will appreciate you. And if they absolutely don't appreciate you, that's probably someone you never want to work with again anyway. Working with first-time home buyers, if you take a first-time home buyer and you take like a $900,000 buyer, I would take the first-time home buyer every time. Every time. Because they're so much more positive. They're just happy to be alive. They're happy to have a house. You know, every once in a while you get a little bit of a crazy one that's maybe a little on the OCD side. But other than that, they are just happy to be alive and happy that you find them a house. And that is so much more rewarding than the people that are more expensive. And yeah, your paycheck is bigger, but they question everything. Yeah, and Stacy said, and they believe you. Yes, the first-time home buyers will actually listen to you. You get the older generation or people that are in the higher price range, and oh my gosh, they're so smart. They know everything, and they're going to tell you how to do your job, and it's going to be harder. It is going to be harder. So first-time home buyers, they're so lovely, and they always do appreciate you. But it's almost like stroking your ego every time that you do a transaction, and you have happy people, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're so wonderful, and we just love you, and you're like, yeah, wow, I mean, it's nice to receive the compliments. It really is, and it also helps to keep you going. But then it will fuel that positivity of fostering the relationships with people and creating that side of the business instead of just making everything business oriented. I actually feel bad for the agents who are so transactional oriented that they're missing out on that positive relationships that they can build with people, because that is actually probably the best part of this job, is building relationships, having new friends, essentially, right? You don't just have new clients, you've got new friends, and you should, by the time you're done with the transaction. They should trust you, they should feel comfortable with you, and you should be happy to be working with them. That's the most positive thing ever. Those are my top 5, really. If somebody would have told me that when I started, that I would not question myself for like 6 months to a year about what I was doing. I kept doing it, but I questioned myself a lot. And it can be difficult, and it can definitely, there's 2 pieces to the puzzle. Like, you have to be able to tell yourself what I'm doing is okay. Like, what I'm doing is going to get me to where I want to go, and then have like some confidence and faith in that. But the whole other piece to that is, if you're not being taught what to do to get there, then you will struggle, you will get frustrated. It's just like Miranda, 11 months. I met her 2 months ago, I think, and she just got her first deal under contract. And she hadn't like been talking to anybody at all. She had a license for like 8-10 months when I met her. And she had nothing. She had not sold a thing. She was so frustrated. And now you look at her Instagram or you look at her Facebook, and she looks like she knows what she's doing, and she's so confident, and she's shouting out, and it's so fun to see. And she just didn't have the information. That's the whole like piece that people keep missing. I know Megan made a comment to me. So Megan's in my area here. She's in Boise. And she reached out to me and changed brokerages, because I told her I couldn't train my competition, right? So she has to be in the brokerage or I can't sell her my product essentially. Anyway, so now that she's got the training and stuff, she's had her license for 3 years. She's like, going through the CMA training, she's like, nobody ever taught me this. And she always questioned herself, and she just didn't have the information. She has the will, she has the want, she has the drive. She was just missing that piece of information that she needed. So you do have to have both things. Colleen said, what the number one thing that hits you the most? It's so hard to know things ahead of time. It is. And it's so hard to trust that what I'm doing will actually, like, I'm investing my time, I invest some money. Will it profit? Like, will the things that I do actually make profit, or am I going to be screwed because I spent my money and my time and I don't make any money back? But from experience, from training other people and their experience, like, you just keep doing these things that I'm teaching you over and over and over, and it will happen. You just have to hang in there long enough to find your own groove, figure out your area, your people, and you'll get it. You'll get it. You just can't give up too quick. And I think the other misconception too, I mean, everybody says, right, real estate's so easy. We had, one of my agents was pretty frustrated. Her builder flipper person, he said, oh, right now selling real estate so easy, even a monkey can do it. And she was like super offended. She's like, okay, like, you don't understand what all goes into actually selling real estate right now, right? Like, there are so many things that go into it. Well, that's the misconception when people get their licenses. Well, it'll be so easy. I can find my friends. I can find people, right? The whole sphere of influence, that everybody gets bought into. And you think that it's easy to find people to sell to. And it's not as easy as what they say it is, unless you have a really good path and game plan and information, which most people don't sit down and tell you. So, yeah, people don't get it. It's hard. There's a lot of stuff to it. There really is. So, I had a client the other day. He had refinanced his house about, 10 months ago. And so he messages me and he says he was going to refinance his house again. By the way, when you refinance your house, you're paying like $8,000 to $10,000 of closing costs when you refinance. Even if it's not out of your pocket, you're paying for that, right? So he's going to refinance his house again so he can take the cash out because he has a ton of equity. So he can take the cash out so he can be able to put an offer on another property, and then he'll sell his house after, because people won't take offers on it, with a contingency. This is the advice he was given by a friend in a different area. So he calls me, so the past client of mine, and I said, that is insane. Do you want to flush $9,000 down the drain? And he's like, well, no. And I said, okay, there is a way. It's a more difficult way, but there's a way where we can still get your offer accepted. You have a contingency and we get your place sold. You're not doing a refi to pull out cash to have to go buy a house. I'm like, that's just dumb. And I said, if you want to call and talk to my lender, she's going to tell you it's dumb too. He's like, okay. And so, lo and behold, talked to him about it. He trusted me, which is important, right? That's fostering that relationship. And then you have the trust built. So he trusted me, and I said, just, let's look for a property. We've got you pre-approved. We know what we have to do to sell your house. We'll prep your house so it's ready to go on the market. Then we can start shopping. So we do all those pre-game plan things, find a house for him, put an offer. It's contingent. They took it. They took the contingent offer, talked to the agent about it. Now, granted, right now, things are starting to slightly kind of slow down. The competition's a little less, so they're willing to take contingent offers again. But I know that, right? Most people, if they're not paying attention to the market, you wouldn't necessarily know that. That's why it's important to study the market. Anyway, so we have the contingent offer. They didn't even do a continue to market on us. I said, it should probably take me a couple weeks to get the house sold, right? We're ready to go. I'll put it up for sale and we'll get it done. And they're like, yep, we know you can do it. Go for it. I did that twice this week. Got 2. Granted, now I have to hurry up and sell 2 houses. But that just saved him. I said, aren't you glad you didn't just go spend $8,000, $9,000 to refinance and pull it out just to do it the easy way? Because there's definitely an easy way to do it, but there's a way that's better for you that's going to save you more money. And that's the way I'm going to teach you. That's the way I'm going to help you do it. He's like, oh, okay, right? $8,000, $9,000. So he's not going to complain when he pays me a commission, that's for sure, because I just saved him a bunch of money that he wouldn't have known he could save. So Stacy, you've been 5 years in real estate. Oh, and you were on a team in not good community. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy you're all here. You guys are so awesome. We had Megan joined the group. Somebody commented to me yesterday. I can't remember who it was. Just about how awesome our group was. And I mean, it really is. It is like-minded, positive. All you guys are just so awesome. And I have faith that you guys are all working hard and trying to work hard. And that's why it's not hard when we have our lead gen system. And I'll tell you, so the guy, Daniel, at the lead gen place, I talked to him and he said, okay, so I told him we need to bump everybody up to that gold level or whatever so that you guys are getting better leads. So you're getting the instant connects and all that kind of stuff. And he said, well, give me your top 5 agents and I'll make sure that we, fix the algorithm and we bump them up so they're already up at the top so we don't have to wait for the computer to do it itself. And I said, all 30 of my agents are top agents. Said, so you bump all of them up to the top. There's not just 5. Like, that's the whole point of the group, is nobody's a slacker. Everybody puts in the effort. They know how to convert. They answer the phone. They answer the text and the email. They know what they're doing. They're doing the training. So they all need to be bumped up so that he is fixing that. So everybody's going to be all up at the top so that we have, higher, more of the one-on-one connection leads coming through too. So anyway, you're awesome, Chloe. You're so nice. So nice, Chloe.
It's easy to be nice when you have niceness surrounding you, though. I mean, that's exactly why I show up. It's interesting. Like, I just found a Facebook group that is for like all of the realtors in our area. And now I see how my broker responds to other people too. And I'm like, oh, it's not just me, that I get like a 1 or 2 word answer. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, I intentionally ask questions that are not yes, no questions because I want an explanation. And somehow it becomes a 1 or 2 word answer. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah. How do you learn from that, though, if you're not getting...
I'm not learning from my brokerage. I'm not learning there at all. I'm learning everything from here. Everything.
You're going to do awesome. Awesome. Doing good. Well, have a really good weekend, everybody.